Alright, we back with another episode. Goku Marvel episode 7. A Battle of Beasts. Wolverine battles Great Ape Goku. Let's get to it. Goku plopped down on a fallen log, stretching his legs as Logan trudged off to hunt for food for the group. The crisp night air carried the scent of pine and burnt ozone from the earlier battle. His tail flicked lazily behind him as he turned to Jubilee, who was busy dusting snow off her yellow trench coat. So, Goku started grinning. You said you're a mutant, right? I have battled several as a member of the Hand, but what is a mutant exactly? Jubilee sighed, popping a fresh piece of gum into her mouth. Don't you know anything? Mutants are people born with special powers, like in our DNA. No magic, no tech, just biology. She held up her hands, tiny sparks dancing between her fingers. For me, I create plasma, basically supercharged energy that explodes on contact. Goku's eyes lit up. Whoa, so it's like fire, but better. Kinda, Jubilee said, smirking. Regular fire's just heat and light. My stuff's got some force behind it, like a concussive blast with a burn. And I can shape it to fireworks mostly. Shockwaves, even into a laser if I focus really hard enough. She snapped her fingers and a tiny glittering spark burst above her palm as if it was a miniature supernova. Goku whistled. That's way cooler than just shooting lasers out of your eyes or something. Jubilee rolled her eyes. Yeah, we actually have a guy that can do that too. But anyways, yeah, sorry for blinding you. Goku rubbed his steel red eyes, chuckling. Comes with the territory. Comes with my line of work especially. But how'd you even figure all this out? Did you train with somebody or something? Jubilee's smirk softened. Professor X. He runs a school for mutants. Teaches us control, teamwork, all that sappy stuff. She flicked the spark into the snow where it fizzled out. Before that, I was just a runaway setting off accidental fireworks in mall parking lots. Goku nodded. Thoughtful. So mutants are everywhere, huh? And Logan's one too. Jubilee nodded. Yeah. Old man Logan's got a healing factor, and he can cut bullets, and his broken bones fix themselves in seconds. Plus those claws, she shuddered. Dude's basically unkillable. Goku's grin returned, sharp and eager. That explains why he hits so hard. Man, this world has got all kinds of strong fighters out there. Jubilee groaned. Don't tell me you're going to hunt down more mutants to harass for some type of combat practice. Goku just laughed, cracking his knuckles. Maybe. Then Goku's tail flicked eagerly as Jubilee smirked, rolling up her sleeves up with a dramatic flourish. Oh, you want to see some real fireworks, tough guy? Watch this. She raised her hands, fingers splayed, and tiny sparks began to dance between them. With a flick of her wrist, the sparks swirled into the air, forming glowing cursive letters against the night sky. Jubilee. Each letter burst into a different color. Pink, gold, electric blue, before dissolving into shimmering embers. The final E exploded in a miniature supernova, raining down harmless sparks that fizzed out before they hit the snow. Goku's jaw dropped. Whoa, that was awesome. Jubilee grinned, popping her gum. Yeah. Save the applause. Took me months to get the spelling right without burning my eyebrows off. Goku leaned in, eyes gleaming. Can you make shapes too? Like a dragon or a giant fish? Or maybe a giant fist? Yeah, I'll make a monkey just for you. And she fired off the design in the sky, and Goku's head went directly up to the sky. And while she was distracted, Sabretooth grabbed her from behind and began to laugh at her fear-stricken face. Well, it looks like I got myself a delicious meal for the night. And he licked her cheek with his tongue as she grimaced. But Goku surprisingly didn't turn to see the revealed sneak attack, and at the same moment Wolverine arrived to see the hostage situation, while Goku remained silent. With his head locked to the sky for some reason, Sabretooth grinned at the sight of Logan and then continued to lick Jubilee's cheek with his long tongue, and Wolverine bared his teeth. Hey, put her down. And he popped out his claws and took a step towards Sabretooth, and Sabretooth looked at him with a growl, and Goku still had his head looking up at the sky. So Sabretooth spake, Well, isn't this just a mutant family reunion? And he laughed. Jubilee struggled. Logan, she cried out to him in fear, and Sabretooth smiled at her. I like how my little monkey companion was able to distract you guys long enough for me to get in position. And he looked towards Kravenov to see his reaction to his words, but but the team remained unresponsive to what was going on around him. Goku's gaze remained locked on the full moon, his pupils shrinking into pinpricks as the pale light reflected within his eyes. A strange primal energy pulsed through him. His muscles twitched, his fingers curled into claws, and his breathing grew ragged. Jubilee's struggles, Sabretooth's taunts, even Logan's furious snarls, all of it faded into white noise. The only thing that mattered was the moon that was in front of him. His vision turned red. A searing heat spread through his veins. His bones began to creak as they expanded. His tail, which he had been flicking idly moments ago, now stood rigid. Every hair on end, a low guttural growl rumbled in his chest, building into something even more monstrous. Logan's instinct screamed. He tore his eyes away from Sabretooth for just a second, just long enough to see Goku's body trembling, his skin rippling unnaturally. "Kid," Logan barked. No response. Goku's fingers dug into his own arms, his nails elongating into black talons, his teeth sharpened, his canines protruding like fangs. His spine arched, his shoulders broadening as his shirt strained against the sudden swell of muscle. Then his eyes flared completely crimson. A shockwave of energy erupted from his body, kicking up a whirlwind of snow. In that moment, Sabretooth dropped Jubilee. All eyes snapped toward Goku. The air itself seemed to thicken, charged with an unnatural energy that made the hair on Logan's arm stand on end. Even Sabretooth, usually so smug, so confident, took an involuntary step back, his golden eyes narrowing in primal recognition. Something was wrong. Goku's body convulsed violently, his muscles swelling beneath his skin like overfilled water sacks. His finger twitched, his nails darkening into jagged black claws. His tail, once loose and expressive, now lashed like a whip behind him, each moment cracking the air like a bullwhip. Jubilee scrambled backward, her breath hitching. What's happening to him? Logan didn't answer. His nostrils flared, catching the scent of something feral, something that wasn't entirely Goku anymore. The kid's usually earthly sweat and sun smell was being overridden by something hotter, muskier, like the stench of a beast's den. Then, crack! Goku's spine arched unnaturally, his shoulders broadening as his shirt seam split apart. His jaws distended with a sickening pop, his teeth elongating into jagged fangs. His skin darkened, coarse black fur sprouting across his arms, his neck, and his face. And his eyes were the worst part. The warm, dark irises Goku usually had were gone, replaced by glowing red orbs, pupils slit like a reptile's, burning with mindless rage. Jubilee's breath caught in her throat. Oh my God. Sabretooth actually growled, his own claws sliding out of instinct. The hell is this kid? Logan didn't know, but his instincts, older than his memories, older than the adamantium that was in his bones, were screaming one thing: fight or flight. Then Goku threw his head back and roared. The sound wasn't even human. It wasn't even animal. It was something alien. A guttural earth shaking below that sent tremors through the ground. Snow shook loose from nearby trees. Icicles shattered on the floor like glass. And then he kept growing. His body swelled, his limbs thickening, his bones cracking and reforming as he doubled in size. Then tripled. Then Jubilee's hands flew to her mouth. He's turning into a monster. Logan's claws snicked out. Sabretooth actually laughed, though there was no humor in it. Well, this just got interesting. Looks like the kid was holding out on us all along. The last thing they saw before the transformation completed was Goku's face, now elongated into a bestial snout, twisting into something between agony and fury. And then the earth trembled as the Great Ape's massive foot slammed down, sending shockwaves through the mountain. Trees toppled like twigs, and snow erupted into violent geysers as the beast reared back, its deafening roar shaking the very air itself. Sabretooth's golden eyes flicked between the monstrous ape and the two mutants that were beside him. For once his usual smirk was gone, replaced by a grimace of primal recognition. Even he, a natural predator by nature, knew that he was outmatched. Well, ain't this a damn mess, he growled, flexing his claws. Listen, runt, Truce, just until we put this freak down. Logan didn't hesitate. His nostrils flared, his instincts screaming that this thing was dangerous in a way that few enemies even were. Fine, but you try anything, Creed, and I'll carve you up next. Jubilee, still shaken from the sheer presence of the beast, swallowed hard. Guys, how do we even fight that? The Ozaru's glowing red eyes locked onto them, its lips peeling back in a snarl that exposed dagger-sized fangs. It raised a fist the size of a boulder, muscles coiling like steel cables beneath its fur. Sabretooth barred his teeth, same way we fight anything. Hit it till it stops moving. Logan's claws gleamed in the moonlight. Kid, stay back. Blast his eyes if you get a shot. Jubilee nodded, her fingers sparking with unstable energy. Right, just don't get squashed out there. The Great Ape moved. One moment it was standing there, looming like a nightmare given flesh. The next, its fist was coming down like a meteor. Scatter, Logan roared. Sabretooth lunged with all his feral speed, claws gleaming as he aimed for the Ozaru's wrist. A quick surgical strike to sever tendons and cripple the beast's grip. But before his claws could even connect, the Great Ape's massive hand snapped forward like a striking viper, engulfing him mid-air. Crunch! Victor Creed's ribs collapsed like dry twigs under the sheer force of the Ozaru's grip. His breath exploded from his lungs into a wet gasp, his golden eyes bulging as the pressure intensified. The beast's fingers, each as thick as a tree trunk, squeezed tighter, grinding muscle and bone with terrifying ease. Sabretooth snarled, his healing factor working overtime to mend the shattered ribs and ruptured organs, only for them to be pulverized again and again. Blood bubbled past his lips, his claws scrabbling uselessly against the ape's knuckles. Logan. For the first time in decades, there was real fear within his voice. The Ozaru tilted his head, its glowing red eyes narrowing with cruel amusement. It lifted Sabretooth higher, bringing him close to a snarling maw, hot breath reeking of raw meat and primal fury. Then it squeezed even harder. Bones splintered. Flesh tore. Sabretooth's spine audibly cracked, his body's bending into an unnatural angle. His healing factor was the only thing that was even keeping him conscious. His cells desperately rebuilded itself. It was rebuilding what the beast was methodically destroying. The Great Ape's grip tightened one last time. Crunch! Before it suddenly loosened, its massive fingers unfurling like petals on a grotesque flower. Sabretooth hung limp for a split second, his body broken and bloodied, before the beast hurled him with terrifying force like he was a baseball. Logan. Victor's body became a living projectile, a blur of fur and muscle hurling through the air like a cannonball. Logan barely had time to react. His instinct screamed, move, but Jubilee was right beside him, frozen in shock. Jubilee, get down. Too late. Sabretooth's body slammed into him like a freight train, the impact sending all three tumbling into a tangled heap of limbs and blood. Logan took the brunt of the collision, his adamantium-laced bones absorbing the worst of it, but Jubilee was still sent flying backward, skidding across the snow like a rag doll. The Ozaru roared, its victory cry shaking the mountainside as it lumbered forward, each step making the earth tremble. Logan groaned, pushing himself up, his healing factor already stitching his wounds closed. Sabretooth lay motionless beside him, his body twisted in unnatural angles, his healing factor struggling to keep up with the damage. Jubilee coughed, spitting out snow, her fingers sparkling weakly. Okay, new plan? Logan's claw snicked out, his eyes locked onto the approaching beast. Yeah, the plan is to survive. Logan lunged, his adamantium claws flashing in the moonlight as he carved through the Ozaru's thick fur like a hot knife through butter. The beast roared more in irritation than pain, as Wolverine scaled its arms with feral agility, slashing deep gashes into his flesh. Blood, thick and dark, splattered to the snow. But the wounds were shallow, as Logan made them. Stay still, you overgrown monkey, Logan snarled, driving his claws deeper into the Ozaru's forearm. The Great Ape's red eyes burned with fury. It swatted at him like a human would a mosquito, its massive palm whistling through the air. Logan twisted mid-air, but the sheer force of the backhand caught him mid-dodge. Crack! The impact sent him hurtling through the forest like a bullet, his body smashing through tree trunks like they were twigs, pine needles, and splinter wood exploded in his wake as he tumbled end over end, finally crashing into a snowbank with enough force to leave a crater. Jubilee's breath hitched. Logan! Sabretooth, still regenerating from his earlier energies, tried to force himself up with a growl. He's a stubborn runt. The Ozaru turned its attention back to them, its lips curling into a grotesque snarl. Sabretooth's grins cracked. All right, kid. Let's see if we can make this furball regret waking up today. Jubilee's fingers cracked with unstable energy as she unleashed a rapid barrage of plasma bursts at the Ozaru's face. The explosions popped against his thick neck like firecrackers, annoying but far from fatal. The beast barely flinched, his glowing red eyes narrowing in irritation as it swatted at her like she was an insect. Then, something clicked in its primitive mind. Jubilee's attacks, her blasts, her fireworks had given it an idea. The great ape's maw stretched wide, saliva dripping between dagger-sized fangs as a deep guttural growl built up in its chest. The air around its mouth shimmered with heat, distorting like a mirage as raw energy gathered between its jaws. Jubilee's blood ran cold. Oh no. A split second later, the Ozaru unleashed its attack. A devastating mouth blast that tore through the night like a comet. The beam of condensed energy lanced past Jubilee, missing her by inches, but the sheer heat of it seared her coat and sent her stumbling backward. Behind her, the abandoned military base, already half destroyed from earlier battles, was obliterated in an instant. The blast vaporized steel walls, melted concrete, and ignited stockpiled munitions in a chain reaction of explosions that lit up the mountainside like a second sunrise. The shockwave sent Jubilee flying, her body tumbling across the snow as the debris rained down around her. When she finally skidded to a stop, coughing up snow, she turned just in time to see their Ozaru grinning, a terrifying, inhuman expression of cruel amusement. It had learned something, and now it knew how to fight back. Jubilee's hands trembled as she forced herself up. Okay, new plan. The Ozaru reared back, its massive fists hammering against his chest like war drums, each thunderous boom shaking the mountainside. Snow cascaded from the trees as the beast roared into the night, its primal victory cry echoing across the frozen wilderness. It stomped in a crude, hulking dance, crushing boulders beneath its feet, its tail lashing around like a whip, a grotesque parody of celebration. Jubilee could only stare in stunned horror. This can't be the same guy. Just minutes ago, Goku had been grinning at her, cracking jokes, asking her about her powers like an eager teenage boy. Now he was this mindless, rampaging monster, drunk on its own strength. But deep down, she refused to believe that he was gone completely. There's no way, she thought, wiping blood from her lip. That idiot was way too stubborn to just disappear completely into that monster. She remembered the way he'd laughed after their fight, how he'd respected her as an opponent. That wasn't something a real monster would do. The Ozaru turned its glowing red eyes toward her, saliva dripping from its fangs, its chest heaved with ragged breaths, steam rising from its fur in the freezing air. For a second she thought she saw something flicker in his gaze, a brief fleeting moment of hesitation. That might have been him. Then, with another shaking roar, the beast raised his fist, ready to bring it crashing down. Jubilee clenched her fist, sparks dancing between her fingers. Come on, Kravenov, she muttered. If you're in there, fight back. Victor Creed coughed up blood as he dragged himself upright, his healing factor stitching his shattered ribs back together. His golden eyes locked onto the Ozaru's massive form, watching as it crushed trees beneath its feet, its roar shaking the very air itself. Then he saw it, moving, the tail, thick, muscular, and lashing behind the beast like a shaking tree in the wind, but scaled up to match its monstrous size. A memory flashed in Sabretooth's mind, training sessions with the hand, sparring with this kid. Every time he'd grabbed or yanked that damn tail, Goku had reacted like he'd been electrocuted. At first, Sabretooth had thought it was just some sensitive spot, but now, seeing this beast, it couldn't have been just a weak point. It was the key to their survival. The tail, Sabretooth snarled, wiping blood from his mouth. We gotta cut the damn tail. Jubilee, still dazed from the Ozaru's last attack, blinked at him. What? Logan, pulling himself out of the snowbank, followed Sabretooth's gaze. His nostrils flared. He'd seen Goku's tail twitch mid-fight, noticed how the kid had always been weirdly protective of it. You sure about that, Creed? Logan growled. Sabretooth bared his fangs. I'm positive. Brad always freaked out when I grabbed it during our fights, like it was wired straight to his spine. He flexed his claws. The thing's gotta be the same, have the same weakness. Jubilee's eyes widened. Wait, you mean if we cut it, he'll turn back? Only one way to find out, Sabretooth said, already moving. Logan didn't hesitate. If there was even a chance, they had to take it. All right, here's the play. Jubilee, keep its attention. Creed, you flank it. I'll go for the tail. Sabretooth scoffed. Like hell. I'm the one who figured this out. I get the kill shot. Logan's claws snicked out. We can argue later. Right now, we do this my way or we all die. The Ozaru roared again, its massive fist slamming into the ground, sending tremors through the earth. No more time to debate. Jubilee swallowed hard, then nodded. Fine. Just don't miss. With that, she raised her hands and began to charge a blast to distract the monster. The Ozaru's head snapped toward her, its glowing red eyes locking onto the sudden burst of light. Now, Logan roared. Sabretooth lunged from the left, claws extended while Logan shot forward like a bullet, straight for the beast's tail. The move was in motion. Victor Creed lunged with a feral snarl, his claws raking across the Ozaru's thick hide. The beast barely even flinched, but the attack served its purpose. It turned its massive head toward him, its glowing red eyes burning with rage. Hey, furball, Sabretooth taunted, spitting blood. Bet you couldn't even swat a fly. The Ozaru roared, swinging a tree-sized fist at him. Sabretooth twisted midair, but the shockwave alone sent him spiraling. He hit the ground hard, skidding toward the cliff's edge, but not before flashing Logan a bloody grin. Don't screw this up, runt. Then the Ozaru's foot came down. Sabretooth barely rode away in time, but the impact sent him tumbling over the edge, his claws scrabbling against the ice before he vanished into the darkness below. Logan didn't even waste time mourning his sacrifice, because if anyone could survive the fall, it was Creed. Jubilee's fingers trembled as she adjusted her pink-tinted shades, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The Ozaru loomed before her, its massive form blotting out the very moonlight, its glowing red eyes locked onto her like twin beacons of destruction. Okay, Jubes, she muttered to herself, forcing her hands steady. One more time. She crossed her arms, summoning every ounce of energy that she had left. Sparks danced between her fingers, swirling into a glowing sphere of superheated plasma. The air around her crackled with unstable energy. The snow at her feet melted into steam. Flare Blitz! With the snap of her wrist, she unleashed the attack, a blinding supernova of pink and gold light that erupted directly into the Ozaru's face. The explosion was deafening, a shockwave of heat and force that sent Jubilee skidding backward, her boots carving trenches in the snow. The Ozaru reeled, its massive hands flying up to shield its eyes, as the searing brilliance overwhelmed its vision. A guttural pain roar tore from his throat, shaking the mountainside as it stumbled back, completely disoriented. For a precious few seconds, the beast was blind. Jubilee collapsed to one knee, her gloves smoking from the effort. She had bought them time. Now it was all up to Logan. Hurry up, old man, she panted, watching as the Ozaru thrashed, his claws swiping wildly at the air. This thing's not going to stay blinded forever. Logan didn't hesitate. The moment the Ozaru reared back, blinded by Jubilee's flare, he lunged. His claws gleamed under the moonlight as he sprinted up the beast's thrashing tail, using its own fur as handholds. The appendage was thick, a tree trunk, muscles rippling beneath coarse black fur, but Logan had cut through worse. This ends now, he growled. With a final leap, he brought his claws down in a brutal, precise slash, aimed right at the base of the tail. Snicked. Adamantium met flesh, and the Ozaru's roar of pain shook the mountains. The tail didn't just cut, it exploded from the force of the blow. A geyser of dark blood sprayed across the snow and melted the ice as the massive limb tumbled to the ground. The beast convulsed, its body seizing as if it was struck by lightning. Its red eyes flickered, the glow dimming as its monstrous form began to shrink. Muscles twisted, bones cracked, fur receded. The Great Ape's towering frame collapsed inward like a deflating balloon. Steam rose from its shrieking body as the transformation reversed, the beast's agonized howls shifting into something more human. Jubilee could only watch in a stunned silence as the monstrous ape dwindled, its features melting away until all that remained was a small, unconscious figure curled in the snow. Goku was battered and bruised, but unmistakably he was himself again. Logan landed beside him, retracting his claws with a snick. His chest heaved, his healing factor already stitching the burns and gashes from the battle. "Damn kid," he muttered, shaking his head. The battlefield was eerily silent now, save for the crackle of distant fires and the occasional groan of collapsing debris. The Ozaru's rampage had left the mountainside scarred. Trees were uprooted, snow was melted into slush, and the abandoned military base was reduced to nothing more than smoldering wreckage and ash. At the center of it all, Goku lay motionless, on his back in the snow, completely naked. His tail, now severed, was nowhere to be seen, likely disintegrated during the transformation's reversal. His body was littered with bruises and shallow cuts, steam rising from his skin as if his very cells were working to keep him alive. His breathing was steady, though his chest rising and falling in slow, even rhythms. Jubilee averted her eyes with a grimace, cheeks flushing red slightly. Someone get this kid some pants," Logan grunted. "Kid's lucky that's the least of his problems." Jubilee knelt beside Goku, poking his cheek experimentally. "So, what now? Do we just leave him here?" Logan exhaled, scanning the wreckage. Sabretooth was gone, probably licking his wounds somewhere, and Stryker had escaped in the chaos. The mission was a bust, but at least they were all alive. "He ain't a threat like this," Logan muttered. "But if we leave him, who's to say? He might freeze to death, or wake up and go on some type of rampage." Jubilee frowned. "You're not suggesting we take him with us, are you?" Logan shot her a look. "You got a better idea." Jubilee opened her mouth to argue, then sighed. Fine. But if he turns into King Kong again, I'm blasting him first chance I get." Logan smirked, hosting Goku over his shoulder with a grunt. "Deal." As they trudged through the snow, Jubilee glanced back at the destruction. "You think he'll even remember any of this?" Logan didn't answer right away. He'd seen enough weird crap in his life to know that transformations like this usually came with side effects. Memory loss, confusion, or worse. But something told him that this kid was different. "I hope so," Logan finally said. "Otherwise, we're going to have one hell of a conversation when he wakes up." "But I doubt it, because I don't remember going berserk when I first got the metal put in my bones." Jubilee groaned. "I've got a room in town, and we can sleep at. And we can take him to the mansion tomorrow." Logan chuckled. "Jubes, are you sleeping with a boy in your room after one date?" And she punched him in the shoulder and told him to shut up. And with that, the three of them disappeared into the night. One unconscious Saiyan, one grumpy Wolverine, and one very exasperated Jubilee. Alright, so that's the end of episode 7, man. Wolverine went against the Great Ape. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, be sure you like, comment, and subscribe, man. To the next one. Gone.